Just like Director Armstrong.
Hey, he's my father figure, okay?
Welcome to Inchworm.
The podcast in which we're inching through worm. I'm Jenny.
And I'm Ted.
We read, what is this, Sentinel 9.1?
Sentinel 9.1.
The first of what's apparently a lot of interludes,
yes,
sort of. I mean, I guess they're not interludes if they're not between things. Yeah, but we heard from Weld.
Weld!
I read
Our
the
metal
first
boy.
Page. There's the line about, like, at least no one was making jokes about metal detectors. But then we ended up not podcasting that night, so I didn't read the rest of it. And I predicted to Ted that it was going to be Weld.
Yes.
And I felt
I really wanted
happy.
to tell you were right, but
I was right.
you stayed in suspense.
Great choice, because it means we get to see sort of the status quo in Brockton Bay from the ward perspective, PRT perspective.
And he's an outsider.
Yes,
right?
yes, an outsider who fails to read the room.
Yeah, he's in over his head.
I did like him, though.
Yeah. Weld is very likable. I thought there was a lot of really good thematic stuff in this chapter, despite the fact that, right, we're starting book 2. This is the thing. I mean, it's just the chapter came out the next week. Like, book 2 isn't a thing. But I really do feel like there's a lot of, like, you know, we're getting updates about how the status quo has changed, new dynamics. There's a lot of exposition that comes through in this chapter. But Wildbow still made time for some very good thematic moments as well, which I really enjoyed on the reread. But before we get into all of that, why don't I tell you our listeners what the deal with Weld was in this chapter. So he shows up at the Brockton Bay airport, and it is empty. There are no people here. He goes outside and meets up with a PRT squad, including Director Piggot, who is there basically to fly him in a helicopter back to the PRT headquarters. She fills him in. The airport's abandoned because it was recently attacked by villains, so it's shut down except in special circumstances. It turns out that the city is barely recovering, and the large masses of people who were unemployed, underemployed, frustrated with the status quo have kind of sparked off continuous riots. They're capturing aid that is being delivered to the city, and we learn later they are sort of under the banner of the merchants, the sort of lowest on the totem pole at the Summers Rock meeting villain group. But that group that were sort of chaos-loving, drug dealers seems to have become a rallying point for the unhappy people of Brockton Bay. Weld is being asked to come in, as the plan was, to lead the Brockton Bay wards, which now only consists of Clockblocker, Vista, Kidwin, and Shadowstalker. They talk a little bit about a potential new recruit to the wards, a speedster who could help replace Velocity. We learn that Armsmaster has retired. It's the only detail we get there. We learn a lot about power classifications in the context of this new recruit. The new recruit is potentially a mover who could replace Velocity, and Weld thinks about all of the PRT classifications, which I'll take the time to read now.
Yeah.
Mover, shaker, brute, and breaker, master, tinker, blaster, and thinker, striker, changer, trump, and stranger. So really fun to get all of those laid out for us.
I'm going to try to guess what they all mean.
Of
based
course,
on the clues we get.
And we learn that these terms, it's not like handed down from on high by the source of powers. These are like classifications that have a history to them. Weld thinks like, oh yeah, the term brute, like, it was originally a classification only for villains. So I'm a brute. And like, it kind of sucks. Like, it's like the word has negative connotations, but like they haven't updated the lingo yet. So we also learn Weld is coming in to help. Flechette is also coming. So Weld came from Boston. Flechette is coming from New York to bolster the wards. It turns out New York and Boston kind of had this friendly rivalry. They would do sort of like power games where they would fight and train against each other, wards v wards. So Weld and Flechette kind of have this like friendly rivalry, I guess. And the Brockton Bay wards, we learn, have not been allowed to take part in that kind of stuff because it is frivolous. And Weld is kind of like excited that Flechette's going to be there, and Piggot doesn't really have much of a sense of humor about it. And we get into the classifications of our Brockton Bay wards that we know, which may provide some clues for you when you're, thinking about what the different terms mean. And Weld gets a big stack of paperwork to go through. Basically, triage is still in effect. This is the stuff you need to know at the top, working your way down. So the merchants, even though the parahumans there are not that strong, they're the rallying point, as I said, for the angry and disenfranchised of Brockton Bay. We learned that the docks was one of the areas least hurt by Leviathan because it's where the fighting was. So the heroes were defending it, the tidal waves were blocked and things like that. So that's one of the places in the city with reliable shelter. It's now like merchants' territory. They've kind of taken over. We also learn that Empire 88 has splintered into two major groups, one led by Hookwolf and one led by Purity. The Hookwolf one is the one that is Weld's priority in terms of like fighting. The Purity one apparently like tried to volunteer to work with the heroes, and Piggot's like, don't do that. Don't give them the time of day, but they're less of a threat than the other faction. Then we get to the bottom of the stack. Coil, the Travelers, the Undersiders, and, Fault Line's crew. And there are some fun little details that we should come back to there, but basically, like, yeah, you know what? If they're sticking to like robberies and stuff, like just don't worry about that, yeah. Right? Like we got to deal with the bigger problems. Then we get this amazing sequence where it's like what it means to be Weld in the wards, like his stipend, where he's going to live, how he's going to go to school, like the teachers are going to be nice to him with homework, and because of course he's a metal boy, like there's no identity to keep secret, right? So he'll be obviously a ward at the school, and he won't have to like keep his identity secret the way the other wards at the high school do. And to be clear, this is the good high school, not Taylor's high school. Mm-hmm. And we learn a little bit about Weld's power. Basically, he can't help but attach to any metal he touches. So several times throughout the chapter, he's thinking like, oh, I better not touch that in case it sticks to me. But he can sort of move metal around in his body. He moves metal impurities to his extremities so that he can touch things with the impure parts, so he doesn't like bond to them right away. But it's not a flawless system. He makes mistakes, and he can also like sever parts of his body, but he really doesn't like doing it. It makes him uncomfortable, and it takes some time to recover. We also learn that he gets the benefit of the doubt both ways when it comes to the Manton effect. Mm-hmm. For powers that affect only living things, he's inorganic. But for powers that only affect inorganic things, he counts as alive, which is nice. Amazing. Yeah. Great perk.
So Regent probably couldn't affect him.
Right. Piggot then goes on to say, so Weld, you understand you're kind of a big deal, right? And Weld's like, I don't know, what do you mean? Piggot lays out like, look, you came from Boston, Director Armstrong, what a fucking nerd, right? I care a lot more about like how parahumans fit into society. And Weld is like, first, hold on. It seems like you don't like Director Armstrong. Like, I actually like him a lot. I consider him a close friend. So like
father figure.
A father figure, yeah. So, don't be putting him down in front of me. And Piggot kind of like takes that and is like, okay. But the point is, she cares a lot about optics. She's not going to diss Armstrong anymore. But she lays out kind of this long-term, big picture vision that the PRT has for parahumans fitting into human society, right? So like phase 1 is heroes. The public looks up to heroes. We do merchandise. We do, heroes beating villains. We get everybody to accept like the role that they have in society. But now we're getting to the next phase, and we're going to have to make people a little bit more uncomfortable. So now promoting rogues, right? people who aren't heroes or villains, people that might have effects on the status quo of businesses, things like that. And getting people more accustomed to people like Weld, the Case 53s, people who can't blend in. And Weld is likable. He has fans. There was a meme about him. He's a great student, right? And so if everything goes well, he's going to be core protectorate in 3 to 5 years. He might even be an international figure if he's willing. So he's being set up, the star trajectory here. And it's not really news to him. He kind of knew he was getting into this, but he wants Piggot to explain it, so he knows where she's coming from. Weld is like, okay, so I want to do my cool training program for the Brockton Bay wards. And Piggot's like, fine, whatever. Don't let it interfere with your patrols, but whatever. And Piggot's like, do you want me to come in and introduce you? And Weld assesses, is she likable? No. Does he think the other wards like her? No. Okay, I'm going to do this myself. And he goes down the cool elevator, and he meets the wards. We get a description of the wards. They all have their masks off, so we get to learn about sort of their physical features a little bit. And he starts into a big speech. It doesn't go great. Nope. He's like, hey guys, not going to make a big deal of this, but I'm in charge now, and I'm going to prove to you that I can work really hard. And I think we can improve on a winning formula. And guess what? We're going to do some special training. And Clockblocker cuts him off and is like, are you fucking serious? Let me tell you about how awful Brockton Bay is. Right? Like, my friend was almost dragged into an alley by a half dozen grown men, and now he's recovering. There were lunatics in gas masks. People are going fucking crazy out there. Weld immediately loses face. He cannot get control back over the conversation. We get this conversation where, Weld is like, well, we can do the training when things get better. Shadowstalker's like, if it gets better. And Clockblocker's like, okay, I'm going to go on patrol. And Kidwin, you take over the console. Shadowstalker's like, great, I'll relieve you later, Clockblocker. And, they all go off and leave. Weld hasn't said anything. He's not in control of the situation. Weld is left with Vista. And he just says to himself, I already lost them. I fucked up. And Vista's nice to him at first. She's like, they're tired. You could have mentioned Aegis, Browbeat, and Gallant, but, you didn't have time to get around to it. And Weld says, they're the ones who died? And Vista's like, oh, you didn't learn their names? Yeah, never mind. You fucked up. And she leaves. So no more nice Vista. And he gets the first file off of his stack of homework and gets to studying. And that's where we leave him.
I mean, it makes sense that the wards are in this really grim position right now. So there are 4 of them left out of 7. They lost. I mean, Aegis was their leader.
Yeah. Gallant was also, he was next. Yeah. Like, Clockblocker was like, you should skip me as leader and go to Gallant. Right.
Right, that's right. Browbeat was new, so they're probably less of, a blow to them to, they probably didn't know him as well yet. But yeah, and now having lost those people, all of a sudden the situation in the city is so much worse, and they are bearing so much responsibility for it.
Yeah.
They're still, kids, teenagers, but they have the power to stop some of the terrible things that are happening.
Yeah.
And it seems like people are just out of control.
Right. It's like stepping into the situation, right? I mean, Weld was at the Endbringer attack, but it's their city. And so it's just created this dynamic of these wards survived.
Yeah.
It's their city. They've been through it all. The past 2 weeks or however long it's been. And Weld is still an outsider.
He just doesn't have the trauma. I mean,
he doesn't have the trauma. He doesn't get it.
He survived the Endbringer attack, but that was a few hours.
Yeah.
Who knows if he lost people who were close to him. We don't hear about that.
Yeah.
And he's thinking about his time with the wards in Boston. It seems like it was a bigger group. It doesn't sound like the villain situation in Boston is maybe as bad as it is in Brockton Bay. I'm gonna guess.
Right, and I think I'll just say that we've had several times Taylor think to herself, like, well, Brockton Bay is, like, exceptional for the amount of villains per capita.
Yes.
Right, so that's definitely true.
Boston is bigger, so it probably does have a lot of villains, but,
Yeah.
not as intense a concentration. And he thinks about how some of the best times for him with the wards was like training, going up against the like New York City wards, and he just like had such a great time. And that's kind of the attitude he's bringing. He's like, how can I bring this positive energy? And they just have it's very like toxic positivity in the face of like 2020 or something. Like, not that he not that he is necessarily a toxically positive person, but he just doesn't get it yet.
Yeah, it's just any, like, if you get hired as a new manager and you come onto a team that's like really experienced, right?
Yeah.
They default will not respect you unless you have a reputation behind you or you can prove to them that you've like done the work.
Yeah.
So anybody like coasting in this situation and being like, like the stuff that he says is just like so generic and uninspiring. Like, I also like Weld. I just feel like he doesn't have good management instincts. That doesn't mean he wouldn't be a good leader, right? Maybe he's a good...
It does seem like he's a good strategist with people. Like, he is generally likable, which probably will help him eventually in this situation. And when he's talking to Piggot, he does have many moments of like, I know the answer to this, but I'm going to let her tell me because that will tell me something about her. So he does think well about this kind of stuff. And he does notice as soon as he starts losing the room, he's like, oh crap. Like he sees his mistake. He just is too behind the
and
ball.
I'm definitely being hard on him. Like he's also just a teenager, right? Like of course. The point is he's being thrust into this role and he hasn't had the training, as we talked about before, right? Armsmaster also like a bad manager, right? Like but like the fact that he didn't know their names, the fact that he didn't like get briefed. He got briefed about their powers. He didn't get briefed about who they are as people, right?
And Piggot really didn't do a good job briefing him because she must know, like, they're working incredibly hard. They're seeing awful stuff out there. They're grieving 3 of their team members. They are really going through it right now. You're going into a tough situation. And she didn't imply that in any way. She was just kind of like, it's a small team. We're going to bring in maybe a couple other people.
Though I think we should talk more about Piggot later. I sort of suspect that it's less of a blind spot for her and more that she doesn't care. And it's sort of like sink or swim. It's like she doesn't, like, he's going to have to figure it out, right? Like they're...
Yeah, but if she's trying to set him up for success, like she didn't do a good job of it.
Right. But I think her philosophy is very much like, well, he'll figure it out, right? Like,
like she does seem like a sort of tough love or tough, maybe not exactly love, but... It just he didn't have a plan coming into the situation. And then what do you want to do in that initial conversation, right? You probably want to just show up, express some sympathy for the situation. You like be modest. You're replacing someone who died.
Right. Basically be like, I never wanted to be in this position. Like I know you guys know everything better. You just come into it
like
with
humility.
Yeah, exactly. Or there are probably some other strategies, right? You could, if you want to be like a hard ass, you say like, well, we're not going to mourn. Like, I can't mourn. I didn't know them. I know you did, right? Like you do something to acknowledge it, right? And then when Clock Blocker starts going off, like, oh, you lost me at training, like the city's this bad. Weld is like, well, I didn't mean now. Right? He is not ready. He is not ready for the pushback. The fact that he immediately goes on the defensive, like he just completely folds.
Yes.
Right? Like no skill at recovering command of the room or making a point there.
Yeah.
And I mean, he fucked up. It'll be fine.
He does know that he screwed that up really badly. I wonder if he'll be able to get it back.
Yeah.
Because it does seem like maybe he has the potential, but like he just doesn't have their recent experience.
Yeah.
Maybe after he's done a few, patrol shifts, he'll be able to get to their level or somewhere near it.
I feel like I've seen a lot of like bad managers in stories where you're kind of like immediately on the side of the rank and file. And Weld doesn't feel like that kind of character, that he's going to be a problem or an obstacle, right?
No.
It really is like he's in over his head. It's kind of a splash of cold water.
Yeah.
I almost feel like Weld is like a character from a different genre of superhero story, right? Like, I love this idea. Boston is a different world. The Boston and New York, like, parahumans training games. It feels very like Ender's Game or Hunger Games. Like, I feel like it would just be so fun to, like, read that. Like, no stakes, right, versions of the superhero fights that we've been seeing, right?
Yes.
Like, it would be so fun. It's not what Worm is at all, but, like, it's a totally different thing, right? And, like, the painting we get of, like, oh, here's Weld. He's going to school. He's made of metal. He's going to have to deal, like, are people going to be bullying him, or, like, people are going to be weird about that? Like, I feel like there's all of this, he's the special boy who's set up for success, and, he's going to be training and knocking down those obstacles until he finally graduates into the Protectorate at the end of his, YA book series. And unfortunately, he ends up in Brockton Bay.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. Yeah. But I do want him to succeed. I'm rooting for him. I think the city will be better off if they have a functional war team.
Yeah.
And even if Sophia is on it, I think that is also a thing. Like, if it weren't Sophia as one of the wards, I think that would bump me a little bit more towards being able to step into sympathy with them. It's not that I don't have sympathy for the wards here. And I think even Sophia, like, there's nothing she does here that's wrong.
Yeah.
But just knowing that, I'm immediately like, I don't want to like her, so... Yeah,
it's interesting that just an obvious villain just being on the team kind of, poisons the whole outlook on the wards.
I liked Vista. We get a really grim view of Vista.
She has been through the ringer.
Yeah.
The description, just like her initial description of how tired, puffy eyes, right?
Yeah, Weld is saying, like, there is a kid her age in the Boston team, but he's a thinker and he stays back in headquarters.
Yeah.
And
this
girl...
in the field. She just, like, killed somebody, right? There's the whole thing with Bastion.
She has 3 fingers bandaged. Her eyes were puffy as though she'd been crying until very recently. Like, she's just...
And she wipes a tear away, like, at the end of the scene as she walks away from Weld.
Yeah.
Like...
And I remember, did we see her, like, maybe not, like, flirting exactly, but maybe being a little starstruck by, like, Gallant?
She had a huge crush on Gallant.
Yeah. So probably losing him was a big blow to her.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, so the wards are going through it. It sounds like, Pigot's like, yeah, you can do this training as long as it doesn't interfere with patrols. And they're talking about, like, 15-hour patrols. So like, that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly.
And what Sophia says, Shadowstalker says, is like, Brockton Bay isn't the kind of city that bounces back from things.
Oh my God. That whole bit is so good.
And I wonder, like, is that something that Taylor is going to be tackling? Like, she does have a desire to see Brockton Bay a better place, and right now it's the worst place it's ever been, and it needs a ton of help. Is that going to be where she focuses her efforts?
Yeah.
If so, how? Like, is she going to be reaching out to, probably not to the heroes, because she really has a dim opinion of, it's certainly not the wards with Sophia on them. Like, what is her plan for that? It's so funny that Purity has been offering to help the Protectorate.
Sure, yeah.
Like, of course she has, because she wants to be, like, on the side of good, and she wants the side of good to be, white supremacists.
Right, and the main merchant is black. I don't know if you remember from the Summer's Rock.
Right.
There was the whole interaction with him and Kaiser.
She must be,
yeah. I want to go back to that passage you brought up. I completely agree. It felt like a big thematic thesis statement and sort of a response to the Lisa and Taylor looking over the city and Lisa being like, we won. And Taylor's like, but for what? Right? Yeah. Like,
what did we win?
So Weld is saying, well, it could be something to look forward to after this crisis has passed. You're assuming it's going to pass, Shadowstalker replied, her voice tired. Some are saying this is the way things are going to stay. I almost agree with them. This isn't the kind of city that bounces back from things. I'm losing them, thinks Weld. I can't believe that. We've got to have hope.
Toxic positivity.
Pull a 15-hour patrol out there, then come back and talk to me about hope, Clockblocker spoke. I could almost play along, go with the blind optimism, say yippee to training, but you don't even mention the guy you're replacing. A few words for the dead? It's a matter of respect, bro. And the whole thing with the memorial, right? Like, this dynamic of, like, will you recover from trauma, right? Not like, how do you recover from trauma, but will you? And the, like, how can you grieve and move on without paying respects, right?
Yeah, cities don't get trigger events. They can't get powers from this kind of thing.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that this is passing the baton a bit between books 1 and 2, and that this will be a theme that we can continue to follow.
Yeah. I wonder, learning about the merchants and how they've really risen, how they've been a rallying point for all of these people. It seems like they've got enough followers, even if most of their followers are not capes, that they can intercept food deliveries, attack airports.
Yeah, it's weird. They were not particularly impressive or organized or charismatic when we saw them at Summers Rock.
I mean, it feels a little bit like what happened with the ABB, where they suddenly got a lot of people. I mean, the ABB's people were conscripted. It was a different situation.
Right, Bakudo was like a new ingredient.
Right, where it was like, oh, they're suddenly very powerful and volatile, but they're maybe not organized in a way that's going to last long term.
Yeah.
So, as opposed to, say, Coil, who is nothing if not organized long term.
Right.
I am curious how he thinks about it, whether because he didn't mention them in his thinking in the previous interlude. I'm curious whether Coil thinks the merchants are a threat, if he's like, oh, this is a great chaotic element that will help me move my way into power. Yeah. They'll destabilize things and I'll be able to, put the stability in place.
Right. And I was also kind of surprised that Piggot, she seems to be like a little bit sympathetic to the people of Brockton Bay. Like, I feel like her description is like, well, they've been pushed past a breaking point and that's why they're rioting. She's not like, all of the, like, the criminal element,
that's
like,
actually true. That's really great, actually.
Right. Like, she's not a positive or nice person at all. But, like,
no sense of humor.
I do feel like she was like, I do not expect people to act differently when pushed to this extreme. Like, it's obviously a problem that she's actively managing. They're the number one priority. But she's not like, we have to exterminate this scum. Them, so to speak. Right. Yeah. She's like, well, these people, they've been so downtrodden. They're angry. They're resentful. A spark lit, and now we have to manage this crisis.
She's also, I don't know if she's the one making this call, but she's also saying, like, Purity's group is offering to help. We are not accepting that help. I think she says now. Do not engage with them on this kind of thing. And that's also, like, you could see that being a mistake that someone could make in her shoes.
Yes.
I guess her saying no to them could also just be like, no, they're villains, go away. And, like, sort of a closed-mindedness. But what you were just saying about, like, she seems to extend some understanding to the people of Brockton Bay. Like, okay, they have been dealt this terrible hand. Of course they're acting like this. Makes me admire her view of humanity more and think that, okay, maybe it is that she understands that getting in bed with white supremacy is a bad idea.
Right. And I mean,
and certainly if she cares about image, that's a bad idea.
Fair. I'll ask you, did you end up feeling differently, better, more negatively about Piggot after this chapter than you did before coming into it?
I think I felt similarly. We knew she was hard-nosed, humorless. We didn't have reason to think she was bad at her job or cruel. Yeah. And I think that's the same impression we get here.
Yeah. I feel like the stuff about the way she talks about the city, the way she has sort of like the strategic grand plan, I felt like I warmed to her a lot more in this chapter.
She's more impressive. Like, we get this sort of more elaborate view of her thinking.
I do wonder how much... I guess I'll bring up the sink or swim thing again. Like, there are a couple of moments where she and Weld talk past each other. And it's like, it's this great bit of character work where it's like, is Piggot self-aware about how humorless she is? Or is this, like... intentionally how she's acting, or even like she might not be humorless, she just might have an extremely dry sense of humor. Weld sort of chuckles under his breath about Flechette showing up, and she's like, is something funny? And he explains, like, oh, we have kind of a friendly rivalry. And she's like, well, I hope your rivalry won't get in the way of you being able to work with her. And Weld is like, no. Right? Like, and then later, Weld is like, okay, director, I really want to have this, like, special training. And she's like, okay, I'll hear you out. He's like, don't worry. I'll work them really hard. I'll eat all the paperwork. And she's like, eat the paperwork? And he's like, no, I mean, I'll do it. Like he has to.
Not literally. I'm made of metal, but I don't eat paper.
No, right. But so, like, to me, the eat the paperwork one was the thing where I was like, this has to be a joke. Like, she has to be sort of poking fun at how earnest he is, like, slipping this under the radar. And so I wonder if the thing where, like, she's like something funny, right? Like, because Weld is like, he's a personable guy. He's trying to be friendly. He's bringing this human element. And she's very much either because of her personality or somewhat strategically, intentionally trying to stomp that out, right? She's like really like keeping a lid on all of the fun parts of the conversation and trying to like, I guess, make Weld as much of a like humorless workhorse as she is. Like, you know, like I don't exactly know what she's aiming for here, but I do wonder if it's less like she's kind of indifferent to how it turns out, giving the facts and letting him go, and more like her philosophy is like, I'm just going to be so hard-nosed and humorless. And I think that this will help because he's going to know he doesn't have me to turn to. I'm going to be, you know, like,
I wonder if it's also her way of communicating, like, there's a grim situation in this city.
Yeah. And there is, I mean, and right, as we see, he's like totally unprepared. I definitely am just like intrigued about Piggot. I'm excited to see more about like how much of her persona is calculated and how much is just she has a very strong personality and it's quite dour. Right.
I suspect the latter, but it's hard to say. Yeah, Weld's whole thing about the training sessions versus other teams, I mean, I'm sure it's actually very good for their combat readiness.
Yeah.
The problem is just that Brockton Bay doesn't have the leeway to do anything, quote unquote, frivolous. Like, they can't make themselves better because they're barely staying afloat.
Yeah.
Like, probably if they had been able to do more training like that, they'd be in a better situation now, but they just can't.
That was so fascinating, right? The fact that this makes me think worse of Piggot, right? The fact that the training was deemed frivolous, right? And that's another, but okay. Sorry, I'll come back to that. But that's another thing where I wonder if she was testing him. Because she says to him, she doesn't say, I think that's frivolous. I think it's a bad idea. She says, previously, this was deemed frivolous. And then Weld defends it, right? So she's kind of like, I feel like that could be like a test of like, well, like, what does he care about? How is he going to deal with that, right? And like, I think she doesn't care. Like, at the end of the day, she's like, yeah, whatever, do the training thing. It's just, you know, make sure it doesn't distract from your priorities, right? She could just be throwing him a bone, right? That's clearly what he wants, right? He leaves that conversation happy about it. But anyway, the Brockton Bay wards, like, they, I think, were done a disservice, right?
Yeah.
Like, it makes them more miserable. They're not going to be as tactically effective, right? Like, if they'd had training versus capes, would they have gotten owned so badly at the bank job?
I was thinking about that,
like, that's the kind of thing. Like, Taylor, she's better every time she's out in the street fighting,
that's
right?
so true.
The training and power combos and stuff is, like, how you get to be better, right? So, like, it feels like a weak point of the Brockton Bay wards program that they weren't doing this, you know, some capacity.
And if they had been, Weld would have known the wards in the city.
Right.
It would have been so much better for a new person coming in.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is also, like, Weld might just not be he might not be a people person. Because, like, we saw him talking to Aegis 2 weeks ago. And here he doesn't, like, even have, like, an anecdote or, like, remember his name. Like, I feel like Clockblocker and Vista should be pretty... I think
it's more like a blind spot. Yeah, I don't think it's that he's not a people person. He clearly likes people and
he just
gets
met
along
Aegis.
well with them.
Like, I don't, like, shouldn't Aegis and Clockblocker and Vista, shouldn't they be, like, regionally famous, right? But, like,
That's
he's
true,
learning their faces. He doesn't know their names. So, like... When we even had that bit in Leviathan where, like, the wards were all kind of, like, hanging out and chatting. And I kind of had this impression that, like, maybe the Brockton Bay wards are kind of the, like... I don't know if this is a true stereotype, but it made me think of, like, are they, like, ROTC kids who, like, can't, like, go to, like, fun events because they have to spend time training? Right? Like, maybe they're sort of, like, awkwardly under-socialized or something in the context of the wards regionally, which is another way in which Brockton Bay is unique and bad. But yeah, I don't know. Just like making them more miserable and socially isolated is not going to help them turn out to be good heroes. Right?
No, that's definitely true. And she's someone who's so focused. It's funny. She's so focused on image. Like, she's like, yeah, that director you had in Boston was all about research and that's dumb. Like, she's so focused on image, but she doesn't have the kind of personality that can give her a good image. It's just funny. Like, she does seem like someone who's like, I know how to use people with good personalities. Like, Weld has a good personality. personality, so we're going to use him.
Yeah, right. If she cared enough about her own image, like it wouldn't. She could probably go a lot farther being a little bit friendly, right? You know, like sometimes, but
right.
But for whatever reason,
that's
she's decided that it's not who she is, or she's decided that that's not going to work.
Yeah. Can we talk about the classifications?
Let's get into it.
So, mover, shaker, brute and breaker, master, tinker, blaster and thinker, striker, changer, trump, and stranger. All right, so mover seems to refer to people who can move.
Yeah.
So like purity was like a mover 4 or something in addition to...
Yeah, velocity, this new
movers.
Recruit.
Shaker, Vista is described as a shaker.
Yeah.
So shaker must be like changing the world. I think it was Labyrinth also a really intense shaker.
Yes.
Was that? Yeah, like a shaker 12.
Yeah, Labyrinth was a 12, which is by far the highest number we've seen in the
far higher. I think we saw 9.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Purity's group. Yes, so we know mover, shaker, we kind of understand. Brute.
Well, say shaker, it affects...
Shaker seems to affect the landscape, the world around you.
It affects the area around you. Yeah.
That's interesting. The area around you is... I mean, I don't know whether or not... I don't know what Gru would be classified as. Probably not a shaker. He doesn't actually affect the world. He kind of fills it with something. Maybe we'll get to him later. So, brute, we've already seen. That's sort of the ultra strong and tough thing. Which is funny that there isn't a distinction between strength and invulnerability here.
Interesting.
Maybe
why do you think
we'll
that
get
might
to something
be
later? Well, I think often they're going to go together. Like if you become something like metal that is really strong, you also are going to be invulnerable. And because it's just sort of these weren't scientifically created classifications. These were used for villains. So it's like, you're facing a big, strong, tough guy. It's a brute.
Yeah, exactly.
And then breaker we got for Shadowstalker. She's also a mover and a stranger. And then we saw breaker again later for someone, I think. Oh, I was guessing that breaker might have been fog.
Okay. So what do you make of that?
It might be someone who breaks with reality, where their own body breaks, where they lose their physical integrity in some way. Turn to mist, turn to shadow.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I would say breaker is probably the most... abstract one, the one that's kind of hardest to conceptualize. Though I think some of what you said is good.
Ones,
yeah. But I think what you said is good. I mean, I feel like I could confirm, but there's no reason to. We'll get more examples as we go. But
so master we've already seen can control other things. So apparently they have the Undersiders classified as having 3 masters, which I think is incorrect. Taylor's obviously a master.
Yeah.
Regent is a master.
Yeah.
And Bitch is not a master.
Why?
Because she can't control the dogs. Oh, I guess she does. She does alter the dogs, but they don't answer her.
Yeah.
But I think there's no reason that the Protectorate would know that.
Yeah, but go back to your idea about what a brute means, right?
Yeah,
you're just fighting a big tough guy, right?
Yeah,
Master is...
You're fighting someone who can control other things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
she has minions, right?
She has minions. Yeah, but I don't think that's, if we were going to do a more scientific classification, that's definitely not what she has.
Just like Director Armstrong.
Hey, he's my father figure, okay?
No, that is interesting. I mean, but she does
act upon them,
master them with her by training. They're very well trained.
Yeah,
right?
but that's not super powered.
Yeah,
well, although
sort of her psychology, her ability to do it.
Edge. Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm a little bit playing devil's advocate, but I think that your larger point that you've latched onto right away, right, is just that they're classifications that need to be used for something. They may not actually be
they may not reflect the mechanic
parascientifically consistent, right?
Yeah, because Bitch is not a master the way Taylor's a master.
Exactly
at all. Yeah,
and certainly I feel like if you're fighting someone who has minions and you're fighting someone who can move your own body, I feel like those are also very different.
Those are different things. That's true.
Whether the master can affect humans,
Yeah. So Tinker, we've already seen a lot about, superpowered science, make bombs, make other cool stuff. Blaster, did we get a specific example? I mean, I think Blaster is fairly obvious. I don't know that we saw it, but like I think
did
legend
we get Purity's
is probably
classification?
Purity is a blaster. That's right.
I don't know if we might have only gotten the classification of the other people on her team.
Purity's a blaster 8 and a mover 4.
Yeah.
So
Purity, legend,
beam weapons kind of thing seems to be a common type of blaster. I don't know that's the only type of blaster. But yeah, Laser Dream would be a blaster.
Exactly.
In addition to a mover, and I'm not sure about the force field thing. We'll maybe have to get to that. Thinker, we've seen a few examples of. Tattletale is a thinker. Mm-hmm. The guy on Weld's old team with precognition is a thinker. Mm-hmm. So you know stuff. Striker, that one's less obvious because Striker sort of sounds like maybe it's Blaster, maybe it's Brute, but we learned that Clockblocker is a Striker. So presumably it's someone who can have an effect on someone else. Like, not master them, but like do something to them that's not shooting a thing at them specifically. Mm-hmm. But striking them with some effect, I guess. I don't know that we have another example of a striker.
Can you think of one?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, is Panacea a striker?
That was the example that popped to mind.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's pretty analogous to what Clockblocker can do.
Right.
Even though the effect is so different.
Right. It's funny to think of it as striking, which sounds violent, when her effect is like the exact opposite. But yeah. She could be a striker. Changer, we learned that Weld is partially a changer, I think. Changer is changing your own body, it seems like.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally sure. Like, would Shadowstalker not be a changer? Would Lung not be a changer?
We did get Lung's description, but he was a brute blaster, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not sure what falls under changer.
Yeah, I mean, the obvious one to me would be Hookwolf.
Hookwolf is a shaper. I was just looking at that. He's a shaper for Brute 7.
But this is another point. I don't know how much of this is like...
Shaper isn't even on the list.
Right, I was going to say... we get shifter and shaper both used to describe capes. They're not part of the rhyme. My understanding, and this could be wrong, so apologies, listeners, if this is incorrect, but I believe that shifter and shaper are more or less equivalent to changer. Like, it's possible one of them is a subtype
term,
or something.
Like an unofficial term.
Right, yeah. But I think that maybe, like, the terminology wasn't totally finalized, or, like, this was lost in the edit or something like that. I sort of feel like properly they should all say changer, though I am definitely not a, like, expert on, the parahumans classifications and, like, how Wildbow has incorporated them into the role-playing game and, like, stuff like that.
Because you haven't done enough scientific research like Dr. Armstrong.
That's true.
Putting him down.
Yeah, so...
Like Dad.
Yeah, so I would say Hookwolf is a changer, and maybe Knight would be the other one. Though why Knight would be a changer and Fog would be a breaker, or vice versa, definitely eludes me a little bit.
Knight is described as a shifter.
Yeah.
So we get shifter and shaper used here. Yeah, but they're not.
But I think they would also be considered changers. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely have some confusion about changer versus breaker.
Yeah.
But I
think shifter and shaper are subcategories of, or perhaps synonyms for changer.
Right.
Okay, so it's still a little confusing, but that's changer. Then we have Trump, which I don't know that we've seen at all.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any ideas? It sounds like it could be
master. I wonder if Trump is someone who can inhibit someone else's powers.
I like that theory.
Or, affect someone else's powers, like enhance or inhibit.
Yeah.
I don't think we've gotten any examples. And the last one, which we do have a couple examples of, is Stranger. Mm-hmm. So the examples we get of that are Shadowstalker, who is a Stranger 2. Breaker 3, sublabels are Stranger 2, Mover 1. Her particular nature as a breaker makes her super light, semi-gaseous, transparent, and capable of passing through solid surfaces. Right. So Stranger, I wonder if that has something to do with perception, because we do get the person who I assume is Knight is a Shifter 8 with Stranger 3. And I wonder if that's the element of, like, she can only change when she's not being seen. Mm-hmm. Or if it's just what she turns into is so weird we don't really understand it. Like, is it just like, oh, there's something weird about this person?
Yeah.
Not really clear. Do you have more insight that you can share at this point?
I mean, I think there's an argument that you mentioned Gru earlier, like what's Gru, right? And I think Shaker, because he affects the environment around him, right? Even though it's sort of emanating from him, for sure.
Okay, yeah.
I do feel like there are some aspects of his power that feel more strangery to me as well.
Yeah, because he deadens senses.
Yeah, the fact that he doesn't have a scent, and the sense deadening stuff. So, again, approaching it from the PRT's perspective, what do Gru, Night, Fog, Shadowstalker have in common if you think about them as a category?
Well, Fog wasn't a stranger.
Oh, wasn't he like Stranger Elements or something? Or am I...
No.
I might be getting the descriptions of Night and Fog confused.
Well, it just says there's a Breaker 9, a Shifter 8 with Stranger 3, and a Master 6.
I was just getting them confused. Yeah.
I don't know who the Master 6 is. Is it someone we've seen?
Crusader can create like little ghosts.
I forgot about Crusader.
He creates ghosts that he can manipulate.
Huh. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so it is creating the minions. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was curious about, if we have someone like Trickster, is he a striker? He changes people's position?
He's not a striker because he doesn't have to touch you.
Oh, striker
right?
involves contact?
I would think so.
Okay,
yeah.
I'd buy that. Well, is he a master? Because he moves things. He transposes things. Maybe that's another subcategory of mover where you move other things. Like, what's a basic telekinetic person?
Right.
Is that a master? Strider, he was a mover, obviously. Was he also a master because he could make other people move? Or...
I would say Strider and Trickster would both be mover, but again, you're asking really good questions.
Yeah.
Right? And
we don't have answers necessarily
Well,
yet.
And it's also, right, it's people can have, as we've seen, multiple classifications.
That is true, yeah.
And there's a question of, could you imagine a whole matrix, a 12-column matrix for every cape with different, numbers of different values, right? Like,
yeah.
Like there are a lot of different systems. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know off the top of my head if there's an official classification for Trickster. I wouldn't be surprised if it was mainly mover, but I could see some arguments for some other, secondary characteristics.
You get someone like Ballistic, I assume would be a striker.
Exactly.
Affects things that he touches. I guess Sundancer, is that her name?
Yes.
Would she be a blaster because she creates the sun? Or is she a shaker because she affects the environment around her?
I would assume she is a shaker, though.
Because it's not really like beams.
Right.
Blasts.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like we haven't seen her use her power like a blaster.
Right.
It moves,
but
it doesn't move super quickly.
Yeah. What about Shielder?
Well, he definitely has the same family of...
Like, what are force fields in general? Is that Shaker? Area of effect?
I would assume so.
Yeah, okay, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, it's a big category.
I will say there's a lot of detail that one can get into after reading Worm, because as I mentioned before, there is a canonical, role-playing game with rules for creating characters and recommendations about how to fit them into the different classifications and stuff like that. So, again, I am not an expert. I'm sure I've gotten some things wrong on this episode already in terms of my instincts about the power classifications. But I like to think of it as a fairly generative system where you can figure out okay, well, how could I interpret it this way? How could I make the argument for this classification rather than a super restrictive, everything has to go in one specific box.
Yeah, I'm thinking, so the classification they gave Taylor back in Arc 8 was Master 5.
Yeah.
Which is not too shabby a number.
Yeah.
I wonder what goes into that number. Mm-hmm. Is it... Because clearly it's not how many things can she control.
Yeah.
Because she can control any bugs within a several block radius, which is pretty intensely powerful. But bugs aren't that menacing. So I imagine that goes into it a large amount. She can control as many bugs as she wants, but what can she do with bugs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and also the thing that it makes me think of is people who have master abilities that can affect humans must get higher numbers. Canary had a higher number. I don't remember how high it was, 6 or 7 or 8 or something like that. Right. Regent probably has a higher number just because he affects people.
Regent doesn't have very much control, though. His power seems relatively weak. But we don't know the other aspect of it. The secret aspect.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I was going to ask, Piggot says they have 3 masters on their team, but only one we need to worry about. So, which one?
That is a really good question. I forgot about that detail. So hard to say. Bitch and Alec have both killed people or have,
That's right.
been assumed to be murderers. So, that's not the qualification. It does seem like Bitch is sort of a known quantity. I don't know that they'd be worried about her doing something unexpected at this point. Alec is relatively weak power-wise, but like Bitch, he has the sociopathic tendencies. And if Armsmaster has just unearthed his past, there might be more information to make them worry about that. I'm inclined to think it's Taylor just because she's done so much recently, like she's caused so much trouble recently.
She's already on their radar, yeah.
I don't know, though. I don't know. And she does seem, she is strong, but her power also gets underestimated, so I don't know.
The question is, have they stopped underestimating Taylor? And we know the region has some kind of secret weapon that they were keeping from Taylor that we know from Lisa's interlude.
Right, and if they looked up his past activities, maybe they know what it is.
Yeah. Speaking of underestimating, though, we can go back to the power stuff. It is so funny to me that they get to the bottom of the stack. And it's like, oh, Coil, Travelers, Undersiders. Garbage. Don't worry about them, right? They're just committing robberies, right?
Yeah.
It is... the heroes are so fucked, right?
Yeah.
Just the fact
they really don't see Coil coming. He has a 76% chance of success here.
Yeah, it is so bad. I was just I would love for the version where Taylor just appears out of breath at Pigot's door. It's here's the truth and lays it all out. How could she possibly react to that? Right. Yeah. But Piggot would be oh no. How could I have missed this?
But it's also, so what would Piggot know how to do about it? She does seem relatively strategic, or at least is part of a strategic group, but doesn't necessarily seem super creative and imaginative. So I don't know how she would handle this.
But the thing is, you can't act against Coil if you don't know what he's doing. Yeah. It's so bad, and it's so funny. Right, his powers are unknown. Whatever, He doesn't seem to be doing up to much lately. Oh my god. But I do love the dramatic irony of it. It's great.
Absolutely. Here are our main characters at the bottom. I probably don't need to worry about them. The Undersiders probably don't need to worry about them right now. They're destabilized.
Yeah. Well, it's also, right, the triage mindset, it makes sense. And honestly, this aspect of it feels very The Wire to me. One of the things in season 1 of The Wire is and I won't get into real spoilers about it, but the gangs of drug dealers, right, they're operating, continuously in the city. They're a huge parasite on society, right? But what the police care about most is violence, right? So to the extent that the gangs are less violent, then they will not be the ones targeted with the limited resources of the police department, right? And so this
has very limited resources.
Right, this is the same dynamic right here where it's just what a blessing for Coil that the merchants have become so violent in their riots in the streets. Because again, whatever he's doing is not going to be as important until that situation is under control. It's so great that Hookwolf does not want to work with Purity and is happy to go around murdering people with his own half of Empire 88. Because again, as long as Hookwolf's out there murdering people, that's going to be the priority for any heroes.
Right. Yeah, the heroes are really screwed. And Taylor's not going to help them. She doesn't respect them at all. No. She had a terrible experience with them.
Weld did pat her on the shoulder.
That's true. And he had a six-pack, and she was into it, so...
That's right. That's
why he's going to be the long game love interest.
What's the ship for Weld and Taylor?
What was it I said? Slug bug for a slug of
a metal slug? I love that. Slug bug. That's very good. That's very, very good. One thing I wanted to talk about was Weld's identity as a Case 53 and some of the different related identity stuff. So the first thing that I noticed is, in contrast, I think, to Interlude 3 when Piggot comes up, I didn't notice any fat phobia in the chapter from Weld. He describes her as large initially, but it's not, right, we had them calling her Piggy in Interlude 3 and stuff like that. And I appreciated that both, just in the chapter, but also I feel like it says something about Weld. That feels like intentional characterization. And also the fact that while he has multiple opportunities to like start to look down on Piggot because she's like mean to him or rude to him or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he never turns things in that direction to be hostile.
Yeah,
he's very calculatedly says, well, she's not likable, so I'm not going to bring her with me. Right. But like that's his assessment of who she is. He's not like adding any extra mustard to it about how like, he doesn't like her. Right.
He does appreciate the eye candy of Sophia.
Yes. So not unproblematic. Yeah. I mean, that moment, I do feel like it is not good characterization, but I feel like like it keeps Weld from seeming like a total Boy Scout. Like I feel like where he lands for me is he feels like kind of the smart jock stereotype.
Yeah.
Right? He likes his sporting, events where he fights the other parahumans. Yeah. He's a really good student, right?
Yeah.
And then what I was going to say is there's this like microaggression where like Piggot's like, to keep it simple. And Weld is like, just because I'm strong doesn't mean I'm dumb, right? Like, but like, did she mean it that way or did she not? Yeah. Right? Like, he's kind of in his head about it, but it's like, it's a great example of like
Tattletale, he doesn't like being called stupid.
No, but it's I feel like it's again with that, the reason I say like the smart jock stereotype is like because the jock stereotype is like you're a meathead, right? And like he's a metalhead. He's like right, like
gearhead.
But right, so like people are gonna look at him and he's like, oh, big guy. He
weighs 600 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, right. He's like they'll treat him like a football player, and he wants to be.
He's a smart football player.
No, exactly, and it's like I'm sure the fact that it pings for him is a microaggression. It feels like he's had this come up a lot, and it's something that sort of bothers him, right? And it's very unclear, right? The reason I say microaggression is because I don't know if Piggot intended it that way, right? Like,
she might just have been like, "Oh, I'm getting too much into the weeds."
This could just be a phrase that she says, right? Exactly. But of course, it's his experience that is what makes it like a microaggression. And I also thought it was interesting. He gets from the janitor at the airport called son, and that also he doesn't like take that kindly to, right? And I thought that was interesting. So he explicitly says like, well, I have no ethnicity. I have no, right? Like, because I was nothing before I was Weld. I just came to be one day in a junkyard. I don't know, like.
Case 53s are wild.
Yeah. But
did the government do this to him? Why would they dump him? And actually, it doesn't totally make sense to me that if the government were creating these capes, they would dump them. Like, wouldn't they put them directly into the wards?
Yeah.
So maybe it's not that. Maybe it's like a shadow organization that's not part of the government. I don't know.
Sounds pretty sketchy. But the son microaggression in particular, right? What that makes me think of is like adult black men being called son or something. And it feels like it puts this like case 53s in Gregor's chapter. It read more as like superpower as disability. And here I feel like Weld is being set up with this more superpower as race, right? He can't blend in the school. And then like he kind of gets this model minority treatment of like people are prejudiced against, people who like look like you and have powers like you, but you're likable and like nice. And so you're going to be really well behaved. And like, we have like set you up as like, you're the one who's going to be perfect and thus make parahumans writ large palatable to
make it more okay for
culture.
The like quote unquote monstrous capes to exist. In the public eye.
So I enjoyed that sort of,
the complexity of
the theme that comes up here. It's also like sort of then just like sad that he immediately puts his foot in his mouth at the end, right? Like
I really liked him.
I wish he was like a little better. Like he, of course, is like, well, why don't people see me for who I am? And then he immediately is like, I'm going to work hard, you guys who just saw your friends die. Like, don't you care about working hard right now?
No.
Oh God.
Well, hopefully he will work hard and he'll learn stuff and he'll go on patrol for 15 hours at a time.
Can old Weld study his way out of this one? What do you think Weld likes to do with the money he's skimming off the top for not eating?
God, that reminded me of the Coil thing in a really dark way. Like,
What are his vices?
Yeah, and he said that he was pretty sure the like adults or whatever in Boston kind of knew about it but turned a blind eye. And he's like, I don't think that Piggot is going to turn a blind eye. Yeah, so does he like hire prostitutes? It was clearly pleasure related.
Yeah.
Does he do drugs? I don't know that drugs would have an effect on him.
Yeah.
He's made of metal.
I have a pitch.
Yeah.
It's whatever shit Regent needs money for. Earth Aleph Media. He's illegally getting music, video games.
But Earth Aleph Media isn't illegal, is it?
Well, I don't know. Like, there's got to be copyright, you know? Like, I don't know, right? And it's probably expensive to get just to stream data through Professor Haywire's hole or whatever.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's what it is he has. I mean, it's like...
Maybe. I don't know. But he did really seem to connect it to physical pleasure. He's like, yeah, my tongue doesn't even, like, register the taste of food the way most people's do. Yeah. So,
but I mean,
it makes sense that I have
brain
this.
Food, right? Like, is he like a prostitute? Does he even get turned on?
No, but I mean,
right?
that's also an open question.
Yeah,
is his body capable of that kind of arousal? I have no idea.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. This
is going to pose a problem for him and Taylor's future romance.
Maybe it's like ASMR, right? He still has, he gets the tinglies.
ASMR is free.
But I don't know. We don't. Coffee is $15, right? We don't know.
YouTube costs so much money in this.
But
reality.
I do think you're right that it is meant to be a parallel to the Coil thing, and it's also like
the
Weld
next
presents
chapter
so nice.
So creepy.
Yeah. And right, he's shitty. He's sexist towards Sophia with the eye candy thing.
But presumably it cannot be as dark as the Coil thing, which we also don't know what it is.
It'd be so disappointing. Yeah.
And it also just feels like it would be a weird repetition. And if the adults kind of knew about it in Boston, no way is it anything as dark as that.
Oh,
but yeah,
boy.
It's interesting seeing that echo. I wonder where that's going to go. That theme. Sort of the illicit pleasures. And we sort of also got Neuter, providing the safe drugs to people. And,
right.
Yeah.
Right. One other dynamic in the Weld-Piggot conversation that made me like them both, right? Piggot is awful to Director Armstrong, who, as far as I can tell, he's just a nerd, right? Mm-hmm. And Weld sticks up for him. And then Piggot's like, okay, I won't say bad stuff about him. And I think Piggot's kind of respecting his boundaries. Yeah. Weld isn't a total brown noser. He's not gonna hold this to be a secret. I feel like it's good politically, and it's good for him to present himself this way and show that he has a backbone. And this clearly was something that Piggot was not expecting from him. Yeah, it left me thinking better of both of them, and it felt a little bit like a conversation that respects boundaries.
Yeah.
That Lisa and Taylor have had a couple of times of sort of Lisa's okay, well, I know you're not gonna, you're already doing the thing that you're doing, or you don't want us to help with the bullies. That's fine. But
yeah.
We haven't talked about the grand plan.
Oh, yeah. The grand plan to make capes okay in society, basically.
Yeah. I mean...
Makes so much sense. And, major respect to them for having, a strategic plan.
Right. Well, it's so fascinating because it reframes the whole genre, right? As a way to create narratives that pacify the population. Which, you could even say that about what superhero media does for people in the real world. But this is such a fun in-world example of it's terrifying that people are popping up with powers and some of them are super violent and Endbringers are here. Right.
Yeah.
So it's let's create the idea of superheroes to make people feel good about the world. Right. It's
they created the wards and the protectorate. Yeah. Did all the merchandising. This is why Taylor had Alexandria underpants.
Yeah. Armsmaster underpants.
Oh, Alexandria lunchbox?
Yes.
And Armsmaster underpants?
Yes.
Okay.
Did the grand plan strike you as sinister at all? You've been very down on the heroes, but did you feel that Piggot has a more pro-social,
Yeah, honestly, it seems pretty okay.
Yeah.
It's basically just let's make people not terrified of us so that we can live.
Yeah.
Is a great plan. It's kind of what Magneto and Professor X needed to collaborate on in their universe.
Yeah.
It's not and then we're going to take over. It's just okay, we're going to present heroes as good, which, I've said, there are some negative effects of that if you're kind of putting these people on a pedestal who didn't really do anything to earn it. Sometimes they won't be worthy of it and they'll do bad things, but we've also seen the heroes crack down when that does happen. So, a little bit in the other side of the scales. So, yeah, they're basically just trying to do sort of a good PR campaign. Now they're trying to make it more possible for people with powers to exist as rogues, which they acknowledge is not the best term, is sort of a leftover term.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just like existing in the world, not having to be part of the cops and robbers fight, like it's an admirable goal. They're basically trying to promote like DEI. Like we want people who look super weird and not like other people at all to be acceptable. And so, Weld, we're going to try to have you be the face of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good goal. It seems to be working more or less so far. Clearly, we ran into that issue with the judge, with Canary. Like, we know there are problems with it, where the judge was like, yes, we do want to promote rogues, but you're too dangerous, so we're sending you to the birdcage for the rest of your life. Like, so clearly there are snags. It's not working perfectly yet.
Yeah, and that's like... I love this detail about, like, the stigma around rogues, right? It kind of explains the Canary thing. We get this, like, the reason why, like, big parahumans, like, why isn't every cape just, like, running a very successful business based around their power? It's because it's disruptive to the status quo, right? Yeah. Like, in 30 years,
corporations start bad PR campaigns
until you, like, integrate, you know, Taylor into, like, a big agro business or, like, you know... clothes manufacturing, right? Like, you know, they're not going to let her have her spider silk, you know, factory take off. But even more so, Taylor has grown up with some stigma around the idea of being a rogue, right? So her desire to be a hero, it's not just shaped by, like, stories about heroes that we can relate to. It's just, like, literally in her world, there is this profession, this calling of, like, people who were heroes. And she woke up after this horrible day and realized that she's like a freak who controls these awful little crawling bugs. Of course she's going to reach for something socially validating and not like, I'll be a rogue. So people will already not trust or like me, and then I have to make the bugs thing palatable, right? The way that she can make it is to follow the narrative, which is I'm going to be a big hero.
Yeah. It is funny, the corporations just not wanting the disruption is such a good point. Like, I had a superhero narrative I was working on a few years ago that, like, kind of abandoned. I don't know if I'll ever go back to it, but it was very much based on the, like, economic model of superpowers, where it's like, if you are incredibly rich, then you're going to hire, like, one of the 5 teleporters in the world to, like, get you where you want to go.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like at least the way I was laying out, it was less disruption for corporations and more just like the 0.01% of society could afford these like very fancy powers, and everyone else just has to like fly or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really fun angle on it, and this is a great way to head off like, no, it's just not so much a thing in this world. Like mostly it's the cops and robbers thing.
And it's also like, 30 years, it's plausible, right? Like probably another 30 years or 100 years, then maybe you do get to like society is fully disrupted by powers. Business has remade itself around powers, but it makes sense.
But it's tricky because if the one cape who has that power that the business is built around dies in an Endbringer attack, there goes the business.
Right. No, exactly. It's wild. On the other hand, another motive for powers in a bottle, right?
Yes, which apparently exists.
Apparently.
I bet Dr. Armstrong has thoughts on that. If Piggot were more like Dr. Armstrong, maybe we would have gotten some thoughts.
Yeah. I love, so that moment, it's so funny. Because, like, I want the Director Armstrong story. I want to read the Weld YA novels before he comes from Boston to Brockton Bay.
And then in Brockton Bay when he wins them over.
Right. Director Armstrong is always, he's being like, but we just learned something about parahumans research, and he's explaining it. It's like, this is the lore that I want, but then it gets cut off by the villain of the day or whatever.
I want you to know I'm picturing him as Professor Actual Factual from the Berenstain Bear books.
Yes. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. But yeah, and we know this, right? Piggot's so concerned about optics, but when I feel like in Interlude 3, optics, we were very cynical about it. But here we see the pro-social side of it, right? It's like fitting them into society and all. But we get a couple of moments with Piggot that I love along this theme, right? As readers, we desperately want to know the Director Armstrong stuff, right? Like, what is going on with parahumans research, right? Like, that's what I want to read a little essay about, right? And Piggot's like, no, that's not...
the Armstrong interlude.
That's not what's important. Yeah, but Weld starts to be like, you think Leviathan attacked Brockton Bay on purpose? Sort of like because, he knew that if he attacked, the merchants would, like, all this chaos would happen, right? Like, they want to target areas they can do the most damage. And Pigot's like, if someone raised the idea, I wouldn't dismiss it. But our focus should be what we do on the here and now, right? Like, very deftly focusing us away from Endbringer mystery powers to rebuilding Brockton Bay. How will Brockton Bay survive the next week? Mm-hmm. And I also really like this detail thematically of Piggot is musing on her big grand plan and just kind of like in her head thinking. And Weld looks out the window, sees a car on fire, just like people running around the street. Not noticing, Piggot pursed her lips. This kind of idea that, like, while Piggot has this grand strategic plan, actually on the ground, things are not good. And that she can't see it at that level, right? Like, she's not the one out in the street.
That's what makes me think it is sort of maybe a blind spot for her about how much the wards are suffering right now.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And the just another, like, weld in over his head and, like, the setting moment is when he leaves Piggot, gets out of the helicopter, as if welcoming him into the city proper, there was the sound of a woman screaming down on the street below, the noise turning into a manic laugh in the same breath. Half the block was without power, and searchlights on the corners of the rooftop scanned nearby streets. PRT guards stood at the edge of the roof, armaments in hand. He relaxed at the sight of the guards. If they weren't acting on whatever was going on below, he didn't need to worry about it.
Dark.
It's perfect. He should not be reassured.
Yeah, it's the kind of, like, shortcut we all take, though. Yeah. We're like, oh, they're not worried, so I guess I don't need to be worried.
And, like, Clockblogger's description of how bad it is, it's, like, full, like, Gotham on fire.
Oh,
like,
yeah, it's bad.
It's really bad. And, like, Brockton Bay is already a cartoonishly bad place.
Yeah.
And so it's gotten even worse. I have a couple details that I wanted to call out. The new recruit is a mover, and Piggot implies that they can't even get close to him to make a pitch, which is like they've lost velocity, so they really need more movers. Yeah. But like they don't have anyone fast enough, right? Like it's
that's so funny.
They're so limited by just losing one person,
yeah.
Right. It's wild. I also, taking a step back, right, Brockton Bay, we were just talking about how much of a hellhole it is now. They're not getting any support except for two teenagers, right? Weld and Flechette is like all that is coming.
They're not getting any protector people.
Okay, but in this chapter, we have not heard.
True.
That is wild. Like, I really hope that, Legend and Alexandria are like coming back to hang out sometimes, but... They're probably, who knows, maybe another Endbringer attack's happening right now. Who knows? They're not that frequent. Yeah, I mean, I should have said this when we were talking about Weld and that awkward conversation with the wards, but I did really just like the procedural bit of like he comes in and feels awkward, and like the thing that he really screws him over is he's excited about the training and it's on his to-do list. If he can sell it to the other wards, he can get Piggot to approve it. So he feels a little bit awkward, and then he's immediately like, guys, here's this thing I really like, and it just blows up in his face. It's very relatable because he's just excited and wants to talk about that thing, but it's also oh, poor guy. Fingers crossed, buddy. Well, what's going to happen next?
Okay, so this was a chapter that ended at the end of a page. So I did. All I saw was the name Flechette.
Bummer. Okay,
That does mean that I think it's probably a Flechette interlude.
Flechette spoke, you're a hard person.
Piggot?
I mean, Weld.
I don't know. Well,
literally.
Well, that is true. Weld is literally a hard person. Yeah, so I think it's probably her point of view. It could be one of the other wards, but it does seem like we're kind of following the wards.
Yeah.
I wonder, so we know, I don't know how many interludes there are, like 8 or 9 or something?
I'll tell you, there are 6.
There are 6. Oh, that's not that many. Would be funny if we got every member of the wards, which would mean Shadowstalker, which would be fascinating.
That would be funny.
Maybe that's what we'll get.
How would you order them?
Okay. I mean, my immediate impulse is to save Shadowstalker till the end because I feel like, well, she wouldn't have to give away stuff about Emma and Madison necessarily. I mean, Flechette coming in new would make sense to see her point of view, though we did just see an outsider. But maybe we see 2 outsiders and then we get a glimpse of the wards themselves.
Could be interesting.
Yeah.
Why is the arc called Sentinel?
Because they're standing sentinel over the city.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Could be. All right, so let's say it's Weld, Flechette, Clock Blocker, Kidwin, Vista, Shadowstalker.
Love it.
Yeah.
Outsiders, insiders, Shadowstalker goes last, otherwise age order. Okay, excellent set of predictions. Now what's going to happen in the next chapter? And maybe the arc if you care to speculate.
I think we're going to engage a little with the merchants.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, maybe this is the Wards versus Brockton Bay.
Yeah.
Which right now it seems means mostly the merchants. I hope we get to meet the new potential, the new recruit that they haven't been able to catch yet.
Yeah. It's a good mission.
And I hope we face off a little bit against the Undersiders and we get a glimpse of what's going on with them because we really have no idea. Like, I think this takes place timeline-wise after the conversation at the end of Arc 8, so hopefully that will give us some
Wards
insight.
versus Undersiders, but on the other side would be really fun.
Right, and they're not supposed to engage the Undersiders, but like maybe it would just kind of happen. Yeah.
Are there any of the characters we've listed that you're particularly excited about being in their head?
I mean, Shadowstalker.
Fair. That's probably the
I'm like not looking forward to being in her head because she's the worst. But I want to know about Emma and Madison.
Well,
we probably won't even find out in her interlude, but
maybe we'll find out. Yeah, Flechette said, "You're a hard person to figure out, Emma Barnes." Who knows? It could happen.
Can only dream.
Until next time.
I didn't know it was a hard person to figure out.
Oh, well, I don't think that's what it is. It's not.
Oh, okay.
It's not.
All right. Well, we'll see what it actually is next time.
That's my pitch on Inchworm. Worm is a web serial by J.C. McCrae. You can read Worm at parahumans.wordpress.com and support the author at patreon.com/wildvote. Follow us on Tumblr and Blue Sky at Inchworm Podcast, or find our Discord link and any other updates on inchwormpodcast.com.